I mean, we've been prolific. We've been really ramping things up, haven't we, compared to a lot of other clubs in the Premier League? I think we've actually spent more than any other club in Europe, I think, so far on transfers. So we've been
Apparently
very,
so,
very
yeah.
busy. We've got obviously the Champions League to prepare for. So we've had PSR concerns. So th those combination of things have probably meant why we've been so active in the transfer market so early on. But Frankie, yeah, let's talk about some of the players that are coming in or leaving
Mm.
imminently. Maybe starting with Moussa Diaby. You know, he seems to be a player that's on the cusp of going to Saudi, having arrived basically this time last year. I think
Yeah.
it was this week when he officially signed for Aston Villa. He's now looks very, very likely to be leaving. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one. I think um, I talked to Jacob Tanswell about it from the Athletic in an interview yesterday. I think that's definitely worth going to listen to because he gives a great, broad explanation of why Aston Villa have sold him ultimately. I've seen a few people say, oh, he's taking the Saudi money. He wants. I don't actually think that's the case. I'm sure he would have been happy to stay at Villa, particularly with Champions League football on offer. But I think what's happened is probably that Villa have thought, all right, we got over PSR last season. I'd imagine this time next year we're going to have more PSR things to deal with. I think that's just where we are at the moment, and hopefully in 2 to 3 years we can get to a point where we won't be. But Villa probably got given an offer that was simply too good to turn down. And
Yeah,
according to the Athletic, we bought him for 34 million. I've seen a million different prices floating around for him.
yeah, same,
I
yeah,
mean, God Almighty, like 50 million, whatever.
yeah,
I'd assume we paid add-ons, and I would assume it was around. We probably got up to about 40 million, if I had to make an assumption.
yeah,
And we've sold him for what I think with add-ons would probably be around 60 million. So there's probably about a 20 million profit in there.
yeah.
Um, the point is, I mean, look, for PSR, okay, it may be good. I'm not an expert in that. I mean, profit probably is probably good, but I think as a player, he played in, I think, featured in every single Premier League game last season.
Yeah.
Was it 10 goals, 9 assists in 58 appearances? I think he had the most appearances in the league in general, like across the board
Mm.
for us. So to lose that is big. He's a quality player. And you have to think that in the second season, he was going to improve, and get better. But what I would say is that he started last season on fire. He was brilliant. But what
Yeah.
I did think happened from about December onwards was that you did start to see that his best position actually probably is a winger.
Mm.
He's not going to get past Leon Bailey in the form that Bailey's. If Leon Bailey looks like one of the best attackers in world football, and suddenly having Moussa Diaby suddenly felt a bit like, well, you probably can get a better profile for second striker. And Moussa Diaby, I think what was happening quite a lot of the time is when he got the ball and was able to turn and run, he was fantastic. But a lot of the time, what was happening, and I remember seeing this at the Wolves game, was that I watched it from high up in the Trinity Road, was defenders, big centre backs just following him around, just stick to him, stick tight to him. And a small physical guy like that, sometimes with back to goal, I don't think that was his best attribute, was back to goal. And I think at times he'd get a little bit lost or not get involved in games. And that's why he kept coming off in 60th, 65th, 70th minute. Was substituted quite a lot by Unai Emery. That might be part of it. And we changed formation as well. So Yuri Tielemans went to second strike, and he's a bit better with controlling the ball than Diaby is. So I think Unai Emery probably thinks it's an offer that's probably too good to turn down with we can get in a decent profit for a player that ultimately he's not going to start enough past Leon Bailey on the wing, which is his best position. And at second striker, Villa probably can find a player who might just probably suit that role a little bit better than Diaby. Saying that, I think he did a really good job for us, and I really wish him well.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely agree with that. I've seen a lot of people saying, well, we've sold a reserve player or a fringe player or a non-starter for a massive profit. I don't see it like that. I think he was an incredibly talented player,
He's
and I
talented.
think he certainly would have had a better season this season. So I am loath to see him go, but I understand with all the considerations for him financially, it's a great deal. For us financially, it's a great deal. So we cut our losses and we move on. Speaking of other players imminently moving out the door. The enigmatic Jhon Durán seems to
Mm.
be a player who is inching ever closer to the exit doors at Villa Park. It seems there's a lot of reports about a 40 million pound or close to 40 million pound fee being agreed with West Ham, although it seems like it's probably quite a complicated deal because it's been rumbling for quite some time.
Yeah.
Um, Again, kind of thoughts on that one, Frankie. I mean, he's shown glimpses of quality, hasn't he, Frankie? I mean, his
Mm.
performances against Liverpool off the bench was absolutely stunning, really. But yeah, certainly an interesting individual.
Yeah. He's a bit of an enigma, isn't he? He's a mystery. He's a super talented player, clearly, and I think the thinking within football, and I know this for a fact, within European scouting networks at least, is that he could actually end up being the best striker in the world. Like that. That's what people think he has in him. But the problem is, I think at Villa, you know, I actually have a bit of sympathy for him in the fact that he wants to start more games. Okay, if he's
Yeah, and you can appreciate that hunger, can't you? You know,
yeah,
it's good that he wants to play every game, but
exactly, yeah,
you got to be realistic, surely.
yeah, and he's not getting past Ollie Watkins. It's just not, and he's not as mobile as Ollie Watkins. Uh, so I think with Duran, look, he's a very young guy. He's coming over from Colombia to England. If I did the reverse of that age from England to Colombia, I'm sure there'd be various challenges to deal with. So I think there might be a time in his life he looks back and Villa and thinks actually he played a lot more than players of his age usually do.
Yeah.
And he was with a fantastic coach, Unai Emery, and maybe should have just been a little bit more patient. And when you hear like John McGinn's interview saying, after the Liverpool game, saying, "Come on, mate," sometimes you wonder what planet is on. You can't help but think there's something on the training ground that isn't going down brilliantly.
Yeah.
But as I say, he's a very young guy, so you do have to give leeway for that. He's a flipping teenager. What was I doing? I was going to Ramshackle in Birmingham, like jumping around to Smith songs,
Yeah.
making an absolute idiot of myself all the time, and I still am. So who am I to talk about Jhon Durán? But yeah, I look again. He does things like liking all the Chelsea stuff and following Chelsea and deleting all his Villa pictures. And
Yeah, but that just shows his immaturity, doesn't it?
he's
As
a
you say,
young guy.
Frankie,
He's a young guy.
he's a kid, so
Give him leeway. Like I don't want it that if he comes back to Villa Park, we're all just bloody like
yeah.
hissing and howling. It's like unless he does an Adebayor celebration,
Which again, I would not put it past him.
I wouldn't know. No.
I think he could do it.
I've got a feeling he might.
Yeah, people chucking those garden chairs at him like Adebayor.
Then I'll be a bit more like, oh well, yeah, fair enough. But
Yeah,
look,
but
young
I mean,
guy.
he wasn't an Emery signing. We knew at the time
Yeah,
he was a club signing. The club did the scouting, and to be fair, you know, as you said, Frankie, he comes with this. He's very highly regarded, and it
yeah,
was. I think to be fair, it was probably a little bit of a coup for us to get him from the States, and he's shown quality. I in terms of his quality he's shown alone, I would love to keep him
yeah.
because,
Same.
as
I
you
would.
say,
I would.
he could go to a perfect club with a perfect coach just for him, play in a perfect position that's right just for him, and just explode and be a phenomenal player. But another part of me thinks that I just don't think, and he could prove me wrong. And if you're watching, John, like, get back at me at this if you don't believe what I'm saying is correct.
He's gonna have your shirt on.
I'll be
Lift it
like
up.
I'll be seeing like a little comment on the YouTube page from like in Spanish. I'll be like, translate now. Who's this JD, 97 or whatever. And yeah. But I just don't think he's showing the temperament needed to be the player that I think he wants to be or thinks he is.
I think he's been.
And temperament is a big thing, as we
Yeah.
know. You look at people like Ravel Morrison, who had all the talent in the world and could have been, an absolutely phenomenal player.
Mm.
But behind the scenes things weren't right, temperament wasn't quite right. He was hopping from club to club, which, Durán has only been at Villa for a season, remember, a season and a half. So like
Yeah,
it's not a good habit to get into when you're 19 and,
yeah.
you're jumping from club to club. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It hasn't gone through yet, but we'll see.
He's got loads of talent, but yeah, I think it is time to part ways.
Yeah.
That's simple.
Right, moving swiftly on because we've got so many to get through.
Jeez.
Let's talk very briefly about the Douglas Luiz, Samuel Iling-Junior, Enzo. You're gonna have to help me with the surname, Frankie.
Barrenchea.
Barrenchea, swap deal signing
Mm.
thing involving Alicia Lehmann as well. So many people, so many moving parts
Oh,
going on with that one.
Alicia's gone.
Alicia's gone. Sorry, Frankie. You have to tear down that poster
Yeah,
that's been hanging above your bed.
yeah.
Yeah. So
My
yeah.
fiance's like, what's that poster doing?
She's a Villa player.
Well,
It's because
she's got a Douglas Luiz poster above her, so it's all right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad to see Dougie go.
Yeah.
Definitely cult hero, scored from corners. I
No,
mean, brilliant
brilliant player.
player.
Yes, he is
And
a brilliant player.
but like he goes obviously with the best wishes of everybody here at All Villa
Yeah.
No Filler. Quality player.
Well,
Um, but yes,
when he comes back to play us against Juventus, or with Juventus in the Champions League,
yeah.
I don't think he'll be booed until
I
he
don't
does
think he'll be booed.
he'll do an Adebayor celebration, won't he, when he scores a penalty? Every player,
What is he doing?
yeah,
What is he doing? I thought he liked us.
every player who scores against ex-player, we're all like, yeah, well, comes back and just does an Adebayor. Like, what?
Charges
What
to
the
the
hell?
whole end, just
Jack
sort of
Grealish when he's
giving it that. Yeah,
Grealish for the whole end. He's not doing the apology. He's going to be running up to
the old
yeah.
shushy lips. The old
Oh,
shushy lips.
can you imagine
Yeah.
that'd be like unforgivable, wouldn't
I'd be
it?
like,
Yeah,
I'd be brought to tears. I think if I saw
yeah.
that.
Just,
But yeah, I think it's a transfer that at the time certainly made sense because we needed to
yeah.
sell for PSR reasons early in the transfer window, so we did that. But we've got two very exciting young players. I saw obviously against Warsaw in particular. I thought both players, and actually against Spartak Taverna, I thought Iling-Junior did really well. That they're rough diamonds, but they're in the right
Yeah.
hands, aren't they, with Emery to be molded into unrough diamonds.
Mm. Everyone I've spoken to involved with Juventus media and Italian media generally really is high on Iling-Junior.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one because Iling-Junior, Jadon Philogene are both very, very skillful players who have probably, as Stevie G would call it, a moment of magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah, they're finishers, Frankie. In rugby terminology, both of those players that can potentially come off a bench and do some damage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think last season, if you were to think who is like a really skillful sort of jink past a player here and there, the only real player we had to do that was Leon Bailey.
Yeah,
we have skillful players, but the only one who you'd think of in that
would
context,
take on players. Yeah, definitely.
Really, he was really good at it. Was Leon Bailey, and I think Philogene and Iling-Junior both offer that, and they both, can give. Leon Bailey doesn't have to carry the load so much in that way now. You can be like, we've got a Champions League game on Wednesday. We beat Real Madrid 4-0. Jude Bellingham in tears. And then, Bailey starts that, scores the hat trick, easy at the Bernabeu. And then on the Sunday, we've got bloody, I don't know, West Ham or whoever. Philogene comes in, and Philogene's sort of ceiling, the fact they've put €100 million buyout clause on his contract, the fact that he's consistently been linked with Barcelona, PSG, Bayern Munich for years now. There's clearly a thinking within football that this guy could have a really high ceiling. So maybe, and then Iling-Junior himself, again, he has that kind of X factor, and I think Philogene and Bailey are two players who can run at players and maybe run into space. But I think Iling-Junior is somebody who actually is in very tight spaces. He's very good at, working a bit of space for himself and making passes without much backlift. And he can cling to the left touch line, as can Jadon Philogene. Leon Bailey can click to the right touch line. I think Philogene can probably do that as well. He's a right footer. But it just means that Villa as well, Leon Bailey was always the one sticking to the right, and we'd have the left fullback bomb on up down the left. Whereas this season, we can actually switch that. And if we say, let's have Kostin Nedeljkovic, a right back, bomb on down the right, and we have Jaden Philogene or Samuel Iling-Junior stick to the left, and Bailey's on the bench. And we maybe surprise a team by just switching the way the team plays. It just means that I think with these players, Villa have another couple of X factor players, both young, but both a lot of growth to do. But it also gives us just a little bit more versatility.
And Iling-Junior is a very versatile player. You know, I think he's played in a number of positions for Juventus. So he's someone that
left wing back and left midfield. Yeah,
he can come in and do a job wherever really, as well as just being, you know, it sounds to me like a player that has a lot of quality. And I think with Barrenchea and Iling-Junior and Philogene, what they all do is they won't play every game. But they will increase the general quality of the squad, which is something that we've needed to do for quite a while. I mean, how many times have we come on this podcast and said, you know, our bench looks poor, or you know, there's not enough strength there,
or we have injuries.
You have a couple of injuries. Yeah, you have a couple of injuries, and again, you're looking at the bench and you're thinking we're promoting players that to the bench that, you know, need a couple of years in the reserves or need to go out on loan or whatever. Whereas now, you know, we brought in a lot of players like Barrenchea, Iling-Junior, that will be very good, strong, solid, quality sub options where Emery can turn to the bench at any point and look at those 7 players and think any one of you can make a difference to this team that we're playing with today. So, yeah, I mean, with those players in particular, it just increases the quality for sure. Okay, right. Let's move rapidly on to the player who is replacing Douglas Luiz in the centre of a pitch, a player who will no doubt be a starter for us in many games this season. Yeah. That is Andre Onana. That was a joke. His name is Amadou Onana. I'm playing on that Twitter video that went viral where the journalist called him Andre Onana, and he went, "My name is Andre, mate. My name is Andre, mate."
Yeah,
really good. He also got a bit of a sort of a Cockney accent. Really, he sounds
amazing.
He sounds more English than I do. But Belgian international. Obviously played alongside Yuri Tillemans internationally. Played every game in the Euros. Not a great Euros for Belgium, admittedly, but someone who is a high-profile player and certainly someone that big clubs were sniffing around. But we got him. We got him, Frankie. He's a
Andre Onana. I actually made the same mistake. I looked up Onana on FBref for stats. Looked at it and I thought he's good in goal. He's bad at defending. What's this all about? And then I realised
he's Cameroonian. I thought he was from Belgium.
I was like, oh, geez, wow, I made that mistake, did I? Amadou Onana. I think that's a big signing. Villa last season.
That is a statement signing, I think. Of all the signings made so far, it is a real statement signing, I think.
He's 22 years of age.
I know. And the profile, just the sheer profile of him as a physical human being is different from anyone that we have. Yeah. And I genuinely think he will be, and we'll do a season preview, sure, in a couple of weeks, Frankie. But I genuinely think, a little spoiler alert, that he will be the game changer for us this year. I really do. I honestly think, I don't care who else we bring in this summer. He will be the player that will change it for us. I
think Unai Emery has visions for him that perhaps none of us have seen, and Amadou Onana himself has not really seen. And I think Onana came out the team at Everton late in the season, right? He wasn't really starting as much. And I think Sean Dyche has a style and an approach that maybe didn't quite suit Amadou Onana. And it really all came together in my head when I interviewed Matt Jones from the Blue Room and Everton podcast, and he told me all about this. And I think just the vision I got was that I think Onana needs a team where when he goes deep for the ball, he can take it, turn around, and there's a pass on. Whereas I think with Everton, Sean Dyche, they were fighting to stay up. Generally, it probably was a little bit more just getting it amongst it, be hustle and bustle, rather than pretty patterns of play. And I think that Onana now coming to Villa, I think he'll be able to play in a way that he probably just wasn't able to do under Dyche at Everton. That's not to be like dismissive. There's other players who suit that style better. But I think Onana coming to Villa, I think this might suit him perfectly. And I do wonder if, we might end up seeing Enzo Barrenchea, who I think will be a sort of Dendoncker replacement. maybe
Yeah.
goes into a defensive midfield role while Kamara recovers at times, and Onana, who I think will start as CDM, actually goes into a bit more of a Douglas Luiz, maybe box to box role. But I think we'll see more of his attacking prowess than we've probably seen at Everton. But 6'5", I think he is. Aerial duels, one of the best midfielders in Europe. Just to have a player who is physical, wins headers. My God, Villa have been screaming out for that, because if you think from about late December onwards to the end of the season, what was happening often with Villa was that we would be in control of games, but we go from in control to looking casual. And part of that was, we probably did take our foot off the gas at times when we went 2-0 up against Brentford and Chelsea and a few other teams. But what was happening as well was that other teams would just go for it. And at times it looked like Villa couldn't physically react. It's like we couldn't quite. And then the amount of times we conceded headers from set pieces, we didn't have the players. Mings was injured. We didn't have the players to win those headers. To have someone like an Onana in there, suddenly you're like, signed a couple of players now who are over 6'1", 6'2", and it's a bit, Sunday league, isn't it? Or a big man up top or big man doing, but sometimes you do need those players, and I think Villa at times needed that last season. I think adding his profile and the fact he's 22, the ceiling he's got is probably, Unai Emery, I think, probably envisions it could be very, very high indeed. I think he could be a major, major player for Villa. I'm very excited to see what he does for us.
Yeah, same. I am very much looking forward to that, as I've said earlier. So that is Amadou Onana. We'll touch very briefly again on Ian Maatsen, our left back, who we
Yeah,
signed very early in the window. I kind of forgot about it really until I saw
I
him
know. Yeah.
wearing, at the club. He'd obviously just because he was away with Holland during the Euros, and then he's appeared now. He's at Villa Park. He's getting stuck in. He's playing games, and another really high profile signing. I mean, given. I know he came from Chelsea, but last season he was the genuinely the best left back in Europe for Borussia Dortmund. Helped get them to the final. Bit of a gaff in the final itself to allow Real Madrid to score their final goal, but obviously a quality player and an upgrade on what we've currently got there, and it would appear that would mean one of either Lucas Digne or Alex Moreno will be on the way. You'd assume. Your thoughts on that, Frankie?
Have to be. Yeah, we've got a lot of fullbacks at the club now. I really want us to sign a right centre back. I want a big aerial ball winner. Maybe even Hermoso to come in as well.
Yeah, well, he did like the
Wow.
Instagram. This is us looking into social media here, Frankie. He did like the Instagram post of the new kit.
I like to think people do that for me. They're like, Frankie Maguire liked a picture of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Like, ooh. Frankie liked
okay.
a video from
There's people doing
1990
their own kind of YouTube videos and podcasts talking about that for
theorizing.
half an hour. Yeah,
Yeah,
theorizing why
that's
Frankie Maguire last week.
that's definitely happening. Ian Maatsen, again, statement signing like Onana. I think he's probably one of those players who comes in like Onana to improve the first 11
Yeah,
immediately.
he starts straight away, doesn't he? Yeah,
I think so. Big money to pay for him. Top quality player. The greatest Dutch fullback of joint ever with Wilfred Boomer. No, that was it. But no, look. Again, he just offers that attacking prowess going down the left. He can get to the byline, pull it back. He can work in the final third, which is what Unai Emery loves from his fullbacks. It's what modern fullbacks should do. But also, he can come inside as an inverted fullback, as he's done for Borussia Dortmund at times. So again, it just offers a little bit more. How do you say? Versatility. Unai Emery can look at the team and think maybe I'll change it up tactically this week, surprise the team, and it turns out that we use an inverted fullback in a way we've never done. We're one of the top teams that hasn't done it.
Yeah.
So I think Ian Maatsen just brings a lot of quality, and again, like all the other players we've mentioned so far,
young,
early 20s.
yeah.
And that is,
I was just about to say that. Yeah,
it has to be PSR related because the thinking has to be, we can't be doing what we did in the Gerard Perslow year where we sign, players in the late 20s, early 30s, big wages, big contracts, can't shift them later on.
Yeah.
Instead, it's you bring these players in, high wit ceilings. One of them might fail, you sell them off, but look, we spent what 10 million on them, doesn't matter. Whereas you sell somebody else who brought in for 8 million, and what does it know? They're brilliant and they go for 40, 50
yeah, absolutely.
million.
I mean, it's win-win, isn't it? Because even if you don't sell them for a profit, say, or you don't sell them for as much as you'd like to initially, put in a sell-on clause, put in a
Yep.
buyback clause, and you're still looking after your assets
Yes.
even after they've left the club. I mean,
Yep.
it's an absolute no-brainer. I'm really surprised that we weren't thinking about doing this earlier when clubs like Chelsea have been doing it for years and
Mm.
years, you know.
With with
Um,
with Port, well, I mean, they've gone off the boil with top owners,
Totally,
but
but they were doing that, and they were
yes,
successful
yeah,
doing that because they would cling onto their assets, wouldn't they? They're young players. They would keep giving contracts to, keep them at the club, keep loaning them out, keep sort of building up their
yeah,
experience and their sell-on value to the point when someone would come in and someone they'd loan them to would buy them for 20 odd million, and
yeah,
that's it's a huge profit, isn't it? So
yeah,
yeah. It's good. It makes sense, Frankie. We're a
yeah,
smart
absolutely.
club. We're a smart club and we're going places.
Yeah, exactly. Like me and you. Well, no, I don't know
No, no,
actually.
no, no.
I
We're
think
not that. No.
my IQ is quite low, I think.
Yeah, pretty dumb.
Rubbish at
But
maths. Rubbish at maths.
rubbish about. But hey, listen, Frankie, I've loved talking transfers and Villa shirts with you. It's been a wholly positive show. I've loved it.
What does it say
Just wait
about
till the first game of the season when we get, spanked and we're, all miserable again.
Jhon
But
Durán hat trick on his debut for West Ham?
yeah,
Does an
exactly. Yeah.
Adebayor and all three goals.
Absolutely. He does like multiple kind of infuriating celebrations. He does this, he does a bit. Do you remember that with the goal he scored where he did about 7 celebrations? Do you remember that? And it kind
Yeah,
of picked up
yeah,
on
yeah,
it.
yeah. I do.
He'll be
Yeah.
do he'll be doing that again, but like just really kind of like, he'll be doing the kind of ears and then that. He'll be
Oh
pulling his
my.
shorts down,
Oh gosh.
all that. But
Oh my
it's
God.
it's it's been today's been a very, very good day. And yeah, and we'll be back, of course, very soon, everybody, to talk about the new season. We'll have a full pre-season preview. We're only a couple of days away from August, Frankie, and we're well into
God, yeah.
pre-season now. So it's all very exciting. So on that note, we will leave it there. As I said before, do like, subscribe, and comment. We'd love to hear from you. But that is it for now. See you later.
Catch you in a bit.